Holy carp, everyone. It is Wednesday, April 18th, and it is episode 6 of the Bliss Point podcast. Bliss Point, if you weren't aware already, is a website and podcast serving up music discussion, news, show and album reviews, and more. My name is Jordan Kaufman, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Billy Gatewood.
Hello.
And Mr. Paul Culp.
Hey.
Hey,
has it really only been 6? It feels like an eternity.
I know. I feel like a lot of people say that when they hang out with me on a regular basis. But this isn't my therapist appointment, so we're not going to get into it.
I know we don't have corrections listed on today's episode.
Son of a bitch.
I know. So I do have to say.
Okay.
I went back after our last episode.
Okay.
I decided to give Casey Musgraves another chance.
No, you fucking didn't.
And I wanted to tell you.
I don't like what this is going.
It is still such garbage.
You really had to start this episode on a bad note.
Sorry, let's get into
I'm going to
news.
cut this out. I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to shit all over your album, and it's going to be great. Anyways, getting into some news. Lindsey Buckingham fired from Fleetwood Mac.
This is crazy.
This is insane.
They'll never find a touring musician that knows Fleetwood Mac songs.
It's funny you say that because they already did.
What?
But it's not.
Where'd they look? Every bar in America?
It's kind of wild to me that, I mean, a band of the caliber of Fleetwood Mac. If you weren't aware, Lindsey Buckingham is the founding guitarist for, or one of the many founding members, whatever, however that works, of Fleetwood Mac. He was fired and immediately replaced. And they haven't said anything. They just said, we wish Lindsey all the best. So I don't know what the hell that means.
They're going to do their farewell tour.
Quote unquote.
This year.
Is this their farewell tour?
Who knows if it's going to be, but that's what they've...
Whatever the issue is, they couldn't put up with it for one more tour.
Right. Like Lindsey's coke habit got really out of hand, even though he's like 85 years old.
I don't get it, because I saw Fleetwood a few years ago, and he was, I mean, obviously Stevie Nicks, but he is the reason.
It's honestly the only reason I kind of wanted to see them.
He's incredible live. You'll never, his guitar playing is so unique that nobody's going to be able to emulate that and be able to play. And he sings too. He writes the songs, and
he's incredible. He's the reason. He's half. He's a lot of the reason why that band is as good as they are.
Yes. I'll be honest though, that's part of the problem with being iconic is people have worked at emulating it for decades.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Okay.
We'll see. He's being replaced by, I did not write down his name, but the guitarist from Tom Petty's band, and Neil Finn, who plays in the band Crowded House. Never heard of either of them. I've heard of Tom Petty, but I haven't heard of the guitarist because obviously I didn't write down his name.
Tom Petty was the guitarist. Who was this other two? I don't know. He does a great solo.
Didn't they have like
Running
6 guitars in Tom Petty's band?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So Tom Petty can just do whatever the fuck he wants.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Springsteen. Yeah. There's just a bunch of guitars on stage.
yeah, absolutely.
And so one of them can stop the tune.
Hey, it makes sense. When you have that much money as a band that big, you can do whatever the fuck you want. We are over the hill on Coachella. It is a meme. Sarah, my wife's kids are memeing about how bad Coachella is.
Your wife has kids?
You should probably explain your wife's a teacher.
My wife is a teacher. Sorry, I'm so used to saying my wife's kids. They're not my kids. They're somebody else's kids.
Somebody else's kids, but you feed them.
Yeah, pretty much. I feed them with my wife's time and effort. Anyway, Coachella's bad, if you didn't know already. But a lawsuit came out recently from the owners of the Sold Out, that's SOUL' festival. They are claiming that Coachella is infringing on artists from booking their festival. And the reason is, in the contract that you sign as an artist when you play Coachella, you are prohibited from performing performing within 1,300 miles of the festival. The festival is located in Indio, California. To paint you a picture, 1,300 miles is as far east as Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's about halfway between the United States, the continental United States, and as far north as Seattle, Washington. That radius is gigantic. That's insane.
Yeah.
And for artists of that caliber playing Coachella, have them to not play half of the U.S. from wild. December 2017 to May 2018 is ridiculous.
How do they sell artists on this?
No idea.
I mean, not
Coachella's
if they're based on that coast.
Yeah, I mean, Coachella is still gigantic. Yeah. I mean, it's not over the hill.
I mean, think of all the huge artists that just played this year.
Yes.
And they're not expected to play on anywhere west of Tulsa?
Right. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
That's wild.
So, I don't know. Coachella will probably be a thing for a long time because it's wildly popular and it sells out every year. So, who knows if anything will come of it. So, this next one I thought was kind of interesting. In Spotify's ongoing quest for world streaming domination, they have teamed up with Hulu to offer a joint subscription package. So you can get this is currently for Spotify Premium users already. So Spotify Premium and Hulu's base level on-demand package for $13. And for both plans, normally it's $18. So you're saving about $5 a month, which is not a huge amount, but it's still pretty neat, especially considering on paper. And I know, Billy, do you pay for Hulu?
Nope.
I know you don't pay for Spotify. Spall, do you pay for Spotify?
Actually, I almost did, and then I didn't need to.
And then I didn't need to.
He forgot he was talking to. Paul, did you pay for this premium service?
Yeah, that's true. I thought it was pretty neat. If I was not already subscribed to Google Play and kind of within their ecosystem, I have considered joining back up to Spotify Premium, but I already have Hulu paid for me because my brother pays for it.
There you go.
So I think that's the problem, is that so many people are ingrained or have other free logins from family members that maybe this isn't super applicable, but it could be interesting in the future, especially if Netflix jumps in or something. What if Google buys Netflix? That would be interesting.
Ooh.
Never gonna happen. HD vinyl is a really dumb concept.
Somebody is putting time, money, and resources into something no one asked for. Jordan, why do you prefer to own the vinyl version of an album? Is it because you want clarity and...
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I want. I want it. I buy vinyl for the ease of use, really.
Yeah, because it's crazy convenient.
Yeah. It's very easy to pull a record out and skip to what track ever I want, and it's great. I
think you want longevity.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Vinyl never ages.
Yeah, no, not at all. So a Austrian startup, Rebeat Innovation, has received $4.8 million from God knows who to somehow market HD vinyl. And conceptually, it sounds interesting. So they're essentially converting the audio digital files, like the perfect, FLAC super fat files, into a 3D image, which is inscribed onto a vinyl stamper, which will then stamp the vinyl wax, which creates the grooves that you can put in your needle and then actually hear the music. And allegedly, the audio quality is better with HD vinyl. But you know what that means? Vinyl costs, at least for HD vinyl, are going to go up. It's going to be more money.
This
probably.
Sound better?
What?
This maybe just decent audio production in the modern world, because it's fallen off. The reason audio production is so terrible now is you don't need it with all the CD and MP3 compression.
Exactly.
So producers don't strive so much to have a good EQ'd audio file, because it just ends up getting compressed and all that gets lost.
Yes.
So if you look back to why vinyl is so good and why vinyl, particularly from the 60s, 70s, is so good, it's because producers and engineers actually took the time and effort to learn about music production, and that's why vinyl sounds better. But if you get a vinyl nowadays from an album that was produced in the 2000s, it's just going to be, for the most part, an MP3 that's compressed into a file that's then stamped onto a vinyl.
Right.
And it's a completely different production process, and that's why it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's garbage.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I'm trying to figure out what problem this solves, right? Because if you are allegedly going to present the exact, well, maybe not exact carbon copy image of the audio file, but let's say for argument's sake that they are going to take the actual FLAC MP3 file and put it onto a vinyl.
Right.
What are you getting like I listen to vinyl because I like the hisses and I like the grooves and I sometimes like the old sound that it presents. If I want to listen to studio quality music and I want to do it for the convenience of it, I'll put a CD in a CD player.
Right.
I'm not gonna I'm not listening to vinyl because I've done my research and I know that it's not better quality. It usually isn't. It's a different listening experience, but I don't understand the market for this.
Me neither. Vinyl is so good, and people don't necessarily. There's no real scientific reason why vinyl is so much more pleasing to the ear.
Right.
But studies have shown that it is, and people don't know if whether it's the dynamic that's present in vinyl, or like you said, just the random like rawness that it has. But you're not going to get that with a modern day production and just saying you're HDing, the crap out of it.
Right. Because also the average listener that's going to buy an HD vinyl probably hasn't done the research and will just see HD vinyl and thinks, oh shit, this is really cool, and just pay the money for it.
Right.
And they probably don't even have to do all the legwork.
And
to
you're
really
going to listen to it on a little crappy suitcase.
Right.
Vinyl player anyways that
Exactly.
you bought at Urban Outfitters, and
yes,
you're not going to get any quality improvement whatsoever unless you're an audiophile with old, good, decent equipment.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I don't want to get us off on too much of a tangent, but when you talk about people describing vinyls having a warmer quality, at the time all these records were being pressed, most of them, people were using like vacuum tube preamps,
right?
Sound system,
mm-hmm.
And I think that adds to it as well,
right? Yeah, it's weird. So we'll see. It's supposed to start hitting stores in 2019, but as far as I know, with kickstarting and funding and weird projects, that it'll never come to stores by 2019.
Yeah, because I saw there's also, you typically have like 180 gram now, which means they just like they're a little heavier, a little bit more weighted, they last a little longer. Yeah. They've like upped it again to like, I don't know, I'm just guessing like 240 or something like that.
Vinyl needs their own Betamax.
It's so weird.
Yeah, right. So anyway, Mr. Donald Glover, who we, in his musical moniker Childish Gambino, which on this podcast erroneously pronounced him dead, or pronounced his moniker
Yeah, we
dead.
started off real bad.
Yeah, he's still Childish Gambino. Donald Glover is hosting SNL, and his alter ego Childish Gambino is performing music on May 5th. And I'm wondering if he has new music to present to the world.
You think?
I'm guessing, just an educated guess, because normally someone isn't on SNL unless they have something to promote.
Atlanta?
Yeah, but
Star Wars?
Yeah, but why would he also be the musical guest? Is because they're like 2 for 1?
Yeah, because SNL thinks it's cool.
It's free.
Because he was built in a lab
true.
for that purpose. Comedic actor and writer.
Yes,
and musician.
That is very true.
So he can introduce himself.
He's one of the few artists and actors that can actually fulfill both roles on SNL. So maybe you guys are right. We'll see. We'll see who's fucking right come May 5th. So this weekend, I'm very excited because this weekend, Record Store Day is on Saturday, April 21st, and I will be free. I'm available to go to record stores and buy things.
I'll be with you.
I'm very, very excited. And I found an article recently that a indie record label kind of confirmed my worst fears about Record Store Day. So apparently, at least according to this record label, that Record Store Day only serves to make major record labels happy with overpriced singles and picture discs, which is pretty true.
That's fair.
Everything that comes out on Record Store Day is kind of needless in its capacity. Most of it isn't like repressings of older things. It's like first time on vinyl for like these things you've never heard of that probably don't need a first time on vinyl.
I feel
exclusive.
like every year is increasingly that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like most of it, I looked at the list this year, a lot of it was kind of older stuff or like live albums that have never been pressed before.
Right.
Like the big hallmark this year is like David Bowie. There's like 6 or 7 David Bowie records that have been repressed and, just keeping him alive, through the beauty of money and paying for vinyl. But this group, Numero Group, is the record label that was complaining. They talked a lot about long lines and fights in lines and over records and how fucking assholes go in and buy up a bunch of stock because they have a lot of money and then flip it for double value. And they've backed up pressing plants just to meet the demand for this special day.
I'm trying to think. I feel like most record stores I've been to on record store days have some sort of quantity limit. Which is weird that people...
On the website itself, it has a quantity of the amount allotted of that record for the entire world.
Right, but even per person, like per purchase, usually you can only buy one.
Sure. But if they're going in and buying every single record store day opportunity that the store has to offer, they get there at 5 a.m. and then just kind of walk in and buy everything.
That's true.
Then it could present a problem, right?
Good point.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to go check it out, and whether or not it's supporting major record labels, I don't really care. I'm going to support a local indie record store, one that I enjoy quite a bit, and to see if I can get something cool. Yeah. If I don't get record store day stuff, I can always buy a record. I'm not particularly attached to anything.
I've noticed too, some of the record store day things are then available online, like after the fact, and that's just really annoying.
And if you've gone to any record store that has newer records, they almost always have a record store days past bin, like things that never sell or do well. So
there wasn't a whole lot that caught my eye this year, but do you have any that
the David Bowie stuff would be cool. I don't have any David Bowie records. There's a Wilco live album that would be neat to own. One that I would love to own is Rage Against the Machine is pressing their concert at the Democratic National Convention of 2000. That would be really, really cool.
That'd be cool.
And there's a bluegrass band or all-star band that does these records called Pickin' On series.
Okay.
And they cover indie bands in bluegrass. Cool. And the one that they're putting out for Record Store Day is Modest Mouse. I thought that would be kind of cool.
Very cool.
So there's a bunch of cool stuff coming out this year. So definitely go out and support your local indie record store, or just go hang out. It should be a fun time.
Yeah.
And this last one I'm very excited about because I can finally tell everyone that quantitatively Kendrick Lamar is the greatest rapper of all time. And let me tell you why. My boy was awarded the 2018 Pulitzer Prize for Music with his album Damn that came out last year. It marks the first time a non-jazz or classical artist has won the award.
It's pretty huge.
It's kind of insane when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I was reading a lot of articles about it because everyone that knows Kendrick Lamar and has been critically listening to his work is finally like, the world is catching up to hip-hop. The world is realizing the cultural impact and importance of hip-hop, and this signifies as one of the dominoes to fall in the many, it's extremely awesome. I think it's really, really cool, not only for the genre, but for Kendrick Lamar himself, who has been at least seemingly nothing but an upstanding citizen and a really cool person. So I'm very excited for him, and I can't wait to see what he does next. So with that, we're going to move into what we have been listening to. And this encapsulates the best, worst, good, noteworthy, mediocre, important, inconsequential, sometimes album-related things in music that we have experienced and have gone to in the last couple weeks. And the first thing on this list is show reviews. And I will talk first about, I saw Leprous, The Deer Hunter, and Between the Buried and Me at Fillmore Silver Spring 2 weeks ago. And it was awesome. Leprous is a kind of progressive metal band. I had heard them before, but when I saw them live, I was blown away because I clearly didn't remember what they sounded like at all. They were awesome. Sounded really, really good. Really very progressive metal kind of feel. The Deer Hunter, one of my favorite bands, progressive, like orchestral rock. They're always good live. They put on a really good show, had a really good set list. Were pretty lively with the crowd and had a good time, which is always a good mark for them. But when Between the Buried and Me came on, it was honestly the worst mixed show I've ever been to.
Really?
Yes.
The other two bands, all the bad shows at Fillmore?
Don't know. The other two bands sounded fine. Get to Between the Buried and Me. The kick drum is so high in the mix that if you're not familiar with Between the Buried and Me, they are very, very, very progressive metal. They do a lot of weird time signatures, a lot of different instrumentation, a lot of varied instrumentation.
Even stylistically.
Yes, yeah. Jazz, weird, alternative music, everything under the sun. And it works best when you can hear every instrument in the mix, say, on an album. If you didn't know, metal drummers are kind of insane and very, very talented and use their kick drums a lot. Between the Bear and Me is no exception. And when the kick drum is high in the mix and it is very, very loud and you can only hear the kick drum, you can't hear anything else in the entire band, which was the case at this show. It was stupid. I don't know how this guy thought he was doing a good job.
Right.
Because I heard the first song and it was like, okay, they started with like a quieter song. It was like an acoustic guitar and they had some keys and the vocalist was singing, not screaming. And there was maybe some light cymbal work. I was like, okay, this is rad. I can get into this. And then the breakdown started and I couldn't hear anything. I could just hear the kick drum. It was fucking stupid. So needless to say, I left after like 30 minutes. I was like,
really?
Yeah, I can't do this. I'm not going to sit here and listen to kick drum for an hour. Especially it was on a work night, so I was like, I could just go home.
Billy would have. He'd be like, this drum sounds fantastic.
Billy would have stuck it out. But Between the Bear and Me is always really good live. They were super, super tight, and they play everything note for note as the album. So if you do get a chance, go see them. Not at the Fillmore Silver Spring, because they're excellent. Next one on the list, Witch with Heavy Hearts. Honestly, it recently came out that the lead singer for Sorority Noise has been accused of rape, which is really unfortunate. And we hope that everything gets resolved peacefully and correctly. But Billy and I saw Sorority Noise at Rock and Roll Hotel.
We did.
This is 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Think so?
About that.
That sounds about right.
Yep,
yeah.
Sure.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. We'd seen them at Rock and Roll probably about a year ago as well. This show was fun. Didn't quite live up to the first show at Rock and Roll.
I was still not sure why.
I don't know either.
Because they were way more lively this time.
Yeah, the set list was good.
It was. They played
crowd was
pretty
good.
much every song that I wanted them to. The crowd was really into it.
I don't know why I wasn't as sold on it as
I maybe they just had a more mythical status the first time I saw them.
Maybe.
I think they did play a lot more slower songs the first time we saw them. So it kind of had more dynamics to the set.
True.
They played both Saint songs, I believe,
They did,
off of their
I
newest
think so.
album.
And I really like that new album too, so maybe I'm a little biased. Like people love their old stuff, but their newest album is, in my opinion, my favorite.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. It's way more diverse.
Yeah.
And way more.
And
it shows their talent a lot more. Yeah. So anyway, moving into singles of this week. So this first one, apparently Billy doesn't like Chance the Rapper. I don't understand.
I just don't understand the hype, okay?
I don't understand why he doesn't like Chance the Rapper.
He's fine.
But,
he's just fine.
It's okay. It's fine. He's just featured on this track, so I guess you can ignore that part.
Full disclosure, Billy got passed over for the part in that Kit Kat commercial, and he's never really gotten past it.
That's true too, you know?
He's really good in that Kit Kat commercial.
I just want to perform with Stephen Colbert once, you know?
That's true. That's fair. This track, Saba.
No Chance the Rapper things. Look at that.
Saba, or Saba, Logout, featuring Chance the Rapper. What did you guys think?
I really liked it.
Yeah, me too.
The production on it is awesome. I really like
That's all we got.
the glitchy, like jazzy trap influence. And he fits over it a lot. He fits over it really well, I think.
The beat is solid.
Yeah, the beat and production
really
is great. Paul, you brought up a good point. I don't know that I would like him over anything but this type of instrumental.
What about Saba specifically?
Yeah, Saba specifically.
Because he's like a Swiss Army knife.
Super diverse,
kind of good.
yes.
But I liked how simplistic the mix was. Like,
yes, yeah.
You know, the jazz that was clipped into it makes a lot of sense. I like what was sampled. But if you're into like Flying Lotus, who uses similar sounds but in a very different way, it's vastly different from that. Whereas with his, there's so many layers, and it's an onslaught of noise.
Yes.
This is very stripped down.
Yeah.
But it works really well with the way that Saba flows.
Yes. Yeah, I like it a lot. And the song, I believe, is on his new record, Care For Me. The album is great. You should really check it out. It came out on April 6th. New Nicki Minaj It's about time. I can't remember the last time she released a new album. But we listened to both of these new singles, Chun-Li and Barbie Tings. One of them is vastly superior to the other one.
Yes.
That being Chun-Li. Chun-Li, I think, was way better than Barbie Tings.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think?
Well, I agree on that point right there. But as far as Chun-Li, I think it was really solid. Good new Nicki track.
Yeah. She's doing what she does best.
Yeah, it's solid, just Nicki Minaj.
It's just good.
Didn't go out of her, comfort zone, but it's still really solid.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see her do something different with this album. And I know there will be pop tracks on there and stuff made for the radio. This does not seem made for the radio, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah, how different are you looking for? You want that weird British accent?
I don't know. I would love to see her break out her alter egos or whatever the hell she calls them. Because she doesn't really do that much anymore. Do that stuff much anymore. So it would be interesting.
Which now would be the time to. I'm not in a camp that thinks that Cardi B or Remy Ma are anywhere similar to her. They all have different styles.
Right.
But it would be a good time to kind of do something a little bit different sound-wise to set yourself apart.
Absolutely.
Or at least just remind people.
Yeah, because I for the longest time, Nicki's been gone, quote unquote. Hasn't been in the spotlight for a couple of years. And those Cardi B tracks, when they first came out, I was like, oh, this new Nicki single's nice. And then everyone's like, no, man, it's Cardi B. So you could definitely tell where one gets their influences, or at least can sound like the other. So it would be cool to see Nicki do something different. New Drake, and continuing in things that Billy hates.
Things that I just don't understand the hype.
Drake is great. You're wrong.
So. He's looking at me like I'm going to explain it. I can't. I like it.
It's you're not wrong in your hating of Drake, because as a personality, I'm not a huge fan of him, especially because he's a Toronto fan.
Fair.
But he is not well liked amongst a lot of people. So it's not like you're the only person.
Don't you get a pass if you're from Toronto?
Yeah, that's fine, I guess. I don't like any of the Toronto teams, so.
I mean, he tried to adopt DC just for you.
Fuck him.
Whoa.
He's the worst. But this track's great.
Wow.
Track is nice for what? I don't know if it's attached to a new album, but he came out today, I believe, and said that his new album, Scorpion, is coming in June of 2018. So I'm very excited. The album title is kind of lame, but whatever. We'll see. Everything that he's released so far has been great. So I'm very excited. Did you guys watch last week's Atlanta?
No.
Atlanta being the TV show featuring Donald Glover. It is about Drake. Drake is not in the episode. It's pretty good.
Yeah?
We should watch it later.
We'll have to do that.
Weekly reminder, or daily reminder, really. If you haven't watched Atlanta, you need to drop everything you're doing and watch Atlanta. I don't care what people have been telling you about it. I don't care what other shows you're watching. It's the best show on TV right now.
It's real good.
You need to watch it. DJ Koze, Pick Up, Disco House. Billy, give me the rundown on Disco House.
Where'd you find this track? I never heard of this dude, and I love me some solid Disco House.
Thanks to Pitchfork.
Really?
Shout-outs to Pitchfork.
Really?
They posted
this week we like Pitchfork. Good.
Interesting.
It switches on a daily basis for me. They posted it. I've heard of DJ Koze before. Wasn't super huge into his stuff, but they posted it. It's just a Lucy. I don't know that it's attached to an album or anything. But yeah. It's great.
Yeah, it's a solid Disco House track if that's what you're looking for. It can be very repetitive, as many Disco House tracks can be, but it's just got a really good vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it.
Great.
Yeah, it's just really like...
Yeah, it's kind of lo-fi.
Yeah.
It's very breezy. It's got that nice, like, old school soul disco sample.
Yeah, it's just got a really good groove to it.
It's like 6 minutes long.
I know. No vocals. I mean, it's just instrumental house track.
So definitely if you're not into that sort of thing, or you're like paying attention to the music, it can begin to wane. But if you have it on the background, or you're just trying to vibe or whatever, it's great.
Yeah, real solid house track.
It's really good. So Action Bronson came out and recently said that he is going independent. So good for him. He do whatever he wants. He makes a lot of money. So
it's really courageous when those well-established artists go independent.
He can afford that. But he is featured on this new Alchemist track, Hopeless Romantic. Alchemist's Lunch Meat EP is out soon or is out already. I did not check. But what'd you guys think?
It didn't do much for me. I mean, basic action Bronson track. Just it didn't have any real catch or hook. I don't know. It's kind of boring to me.
Beat on it, like it's just this sample just kind of loops.
Yeah,
and he kind of does his thing over it.
Yeah, the point you made earlier made a lot of sense to me. Where action has that bar.
Yeah,
he always meets it. It's always a certain level of quality, but sometimes it just doesn't wow you.
Yeah,
to me, it's more surprising. Like Alchemist has never let me down.
Yes,
his production, it's amazing.
He's got really
the sounds
good
he uses.
Taste.
But this, just didn't have anything that set it apart for me.
Just by the numbers for both, really. But certainly check it out if you're an action fan. It's more action, so who can complain about that? And next up, we got new releases. And that is albums that came out recently that we liked but maybe didn't love or thought were okay or maybe noteworthy. And with that, we're going to get into Billy's pick. What'd you pick?
This week was a struggle.
Why?
I was looking forward to Under Oath.
Oh, God damn it.
Sucks so much, dude.
We could dedicate a whole 45 minutes talking about
just
how bad it
trashing
is.
that album. Yeah, it's garbage.
Yeah.
Was disappointed in the Wonder Years album.
Which I'm surprised. I haven't been attached to them, and I know you've liked them a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear that from you. I thought they were a band that like could consistently write albums, and then all of their fans would just kind of like them at a certain level. So I'm surprised to hear that you didn't like it.
I don't have much of a take on what people thought of it, but just for me, I was pretty disappointed in it.
Okay. A lot of disappointment this week.
So I had to pick a random album that I don't have any strong feelings about.
Wow.
Really selling this there, buddy.
That's the level of research we do on this podcast.
Sorry. No, so I like this producer a lot.
Okay.
It's jackLNDN. He put out an EP called Get Down EP. And he's been one of my favorite producers for a long time. Again, very disco house.
Yeah.
Funk house. More of that kind of tropical mainstream clubhouse that you would hear nowadays.
Yes.
With good production. And what caught me with this EP was it was the first time he had done all the vocals on his music.
Oh,
so that's why I was interested in it. Thought it might be noteworthy to talk about.
Yeah.
He's a producer, always been solid. Never really disappoints me with production, but he laid his vocals down on this EP. He could have not done it, and it probably would have been better. But I respect that he tried. Maybe
if you just left it at A, I think that's how all of us kind of feel.
Yeah,
it's not bad. I definitely don't hate it.
I'm not familiar with him, but I was on the impression that his vocals were a big part of that sound because he's literally laying down vocal parts to use almost like you would instrumentation.
right. Yeah, so he's had vocal features on tracks before, or he's sampled vocals or did remixes and stuff like that. His production is solid. He's a really good producer. So it was just, another experimentation for him, I think, to go out and just do the vocals himself. And you could tell because lyrically it's very cheesy. Melodically it's nothing that thrilling or exciting. But if you get past that and really focus on the production, I think it's pretty solid.
So I have to ask this because I'm not super into this type of scene.
Yeah.
Is this type of production? The production is good. Mm-hmm. Isn't this just kind of the bar for this type of music, though?
What do you mean?
Like electronic music, right?
Sure.
Like it's very rare that you find an electronic artist that specializes or utilizes lo-fi production. Specifically, like the entire getup, like you could use lo-fi drums or whatever the fuck you want to do. But like this type of music, I've always understood to be very clean and very well produced.
Yes,
and that was kind of a hallmark of the genre.
Right.
Do you feel that this is set apart from other artists of similar caliber, or is it just kind of like this is really good production, and it kind of meets what you would expect?
Production wise, it's pretty top notch, I'd say.
Okay.
And songwriting,
sure,
and structure for electronic and funky house, disco house, He's really got a good way about having a track ride and just flow through.
And that's an underrated quality, I think, in the genre.
Yeah.
It's like actually writing a song instead of just trying to do a cool loop for 4 minutes. So that has its own merits.
Yeah,
sure.
so I mean, I think he went out of the box on a couple tracks. The title track, Get Down, has a nice little guitar part on it. I mean, it's just a basic disco guitar. That's probably one of my favorite tracks. The opening track's great too. There's one that he completely breaks out of his style. I think it's loud, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't really fit as well.
Yeah, it was the most tropical feeling of the group.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 tracks. I didn't like the vocal sample. I feel like if he pulled out the vocal sample,
right, it would have been better.
The song would have been much better, for sure.
And what I fear is, as the market gets super saturated, these producers are trying to find a live element that sets them apart.
Right.
And maybe if he starts writing tracks that he has vocals on, he can sing live. And bring that live element to a genre that's primarily just been behind a deck,
Right.
DJ. So as DJs try to strive to provide that extra element, some might fall out because of it.
Sure. I never really understood that there was a desperate element to being a DJ because of how saturated the market is.
Oh, dude.
You really need need to be like the top 1%, like your Diplo or Skrillex of the world.
Yeah.
Or like do something wildly different for people to really...
And even still,
that's crazy.
Those producers, I
that.
guarantee, will start having live instrumentation with their sets anytime now. Because behind the scenes, they've been talking about it for years.
Sure.
Knowing how the genre is going and progressing quickly, that they were going to have to set themselves apart somehow. And everybody's answer was somehow incorporate a live sound to it.
Sure.
And so they've been planning this for years on how to kind of debut that. And I mean, unfortunately, he just
does an okay job.
did lackluster with the vocals.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the first and second track are probably my favorite. Related artist, he sounds kind of like a local producer, Will Eastman.
Okay.
Kind of just has that disco house type vibe. Another local producer, Oscar. Two of my favorites in the local scene, and kind of just has that vibe.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. Mr. Paul, how are we feeling about King Tut? Just kidding.
I was going to say, King Tuff? Yeah, feeling pretty good about it. So he released an album called The Other, and King Tuff is the alter ego of Kyle Thomas, who's been associated with a bunch of different kind of acts, like hardcore metal all the way to weird, like, revivalist gospel
stuff. Which is
stuff.
Nuts.
Yeah, just really diverse background musically. But on his own music, I think the last release, I can't remember the name of it, but had kind of more of a glossy glam feel.
Okay.
This album is solidly, to me, like folk and funk in the vocals.
Yeah.
Has kind of nice pop sensibilities. The lyricism is really simplistic, but it's nice. Everything has a kind of nice positive vibe to it, so I forgive a lot of the...
Yeah, it's a really good summer beachy album, for sure. If you're into that sort of sound, right?
Right. In some places kind of lo-fi. Not a whole lot of layers going on in terms of the instrumentation, but I couldn't help but love it.
Yeah, I like this a lot more each time I listen to it. Because, like we were talking before the show, I had heard a lot of good things about it. A lot of people were talking about it, people that I respect in the music industry. And I listened to the first song, the opener, The Other, and I was immediately turned off. I was like, if this is the rest of the album, I'm good. I don't need to listen to it. But you brought it up as your new release, so I checked it out, listened to it a couple times, and was like, this is cool. I like this. It has a lot of that cool psychedelic vibes to it. A lot of cool old school like organs and keys all over it.
Right, and I love that.
The lo-fi drum production on this is excellent.
Top notch.
Particularly on Never Ending Sunshine. There's like kind of, not dueling, but there's a repetitive drum beat and there's some really cool organs on top of it, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the title track. The first track on the album is called The Other, and it's the longest one, I think, clocking in around 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm with you on the verses and the song structure's fine, but the vocals and the lyrics don't do much for me. But there's a guitar line in there that's just an earworm.
Sure.
And the more I listen to it, the more I like it. I wasn't the biggest fan the first listen, but Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a track on their Ultraviolet that has a really subtle old Jack White feel to me.
Yes.
Which is kind of strange.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Ultraviolet, I'm pretty sure, is the one that reminds me the most of King Gizzard. It's got a lot of that like weird, like Eastern melody to it.
Yeah.
That is really different for that type of music, or at least that I'm used to hearing anyway.
Yeah, I struggle to relate it to similar bands or projects.
It is. It's hard.
In some places, I hear kind of a really subtle Beck vibe, but the more
kind of
upbeat Beck stuff. But anyway, the tracks I really liked from this were Through the Cracks, Birds of Paradise, and Ultraviolet, which I knew you had kind of mixed feelings on.
Yeah, Ultraviolet's cool. I liked Infinite Mile a lot. There's a really cool harmonica part on Infinite Mile. It was cool. Related artists, like you said, you asked me for input, and I had to do some research because it doesn't sound a lot like the things that it was recommending. So I kind of put some more psychedelic leaning garage bands. So Black Lips, Foxygen, and definitely King Giz. A lot of King Giz is so diverse that you can find a lot of stuff that sounds similar.
And I think this guy, he's at his strongest in the tracks where there's a lot more production on the vocals.
Yes.
Where it's kind of echoey or kind of using an older bullet mic or something. The vocals are recorded a little bit more clearly on some of the more folk-based tracks. And it's not bad by any means. Like, one of his main goals with this album was for it to be able to hold up him doing acoustic sets. But, I don't know, he's not the strongest vocalist.
Yeah.
So the more affectation they put on there, the better it sounds.
Yeah, the vocals are definitely the biggest turnoff for me. But if you can stick with it, I think, through at least one listen, there's a lot of good standout tracks on here, for sure. All right, let's jump into my new release, Vacation in Hell by the one and only Flatbush Zombies. I was stoked for this. Very, very excited. They're one of my favorite hip-hop groups, modern hip-hop groups right now. And their last album, 3001: A Laced Odyssey, their commercial debut, was really disappointing for me. They had a lot of psychedelic vibe to it, but the whole vibe, or the whole production and altogether pieces weren't there. So I was very excited to see what they were doing. The lead-up singles, Headstone and You and I, were very, very good. We checked out Headstone a couple of weeks ago. And unfortunately, I was disappointed. And the good thing is there's a lot of music on here. So you are bound to find at least one or two songs that you like a lot. And I found, probably 10 or so, maybe 12, that I really, really liked a lot. The album itself is 19 songs long, an hour and 16 minutes, sorry. Way too long. Way too long.
Why do that?
I have no idea. I don't understand why bands of this caliber or groups of this caliber are putting out hours worth of music.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. If they cut this album down to the best 10 songs,
right,
it would have been an album of the year candidate for me, easily. The production and beats on here are amazing. Eric the Architect does a lot of their beats and a lot of their production. He's part of the group. He's amazing. This has some of their most mature and hard-hitting material, and really some of their best material on here. Their three unique voices are really stand out amongst the backdrop that is current hip-hop right now. They sound very, very unique, and a lot of the tracks on here really showcase those vocal styles. But it's just a lot of the songs, like, you get through the first 5 or 6 songs and it's great, and then from there it's like every other song is just kind of drags. So it was a little disappointing. Did you guys check it out at all a little bit?
I didn't hear much of it.
Okay.
I of course heard that single before and a few other samplings. Do you feel like they're getting away from that psychedelic thing that was all over their previous offering? I
think so. They still have some elements of it on here. They tend to lean a little more grimy and darker and add some psychedelic tones, but definitely not as much as 3001, their previous album, was.
Grimy and grungy I like. That's kind of what you go to them for.
Yeah, it is excellent, like, dark East Coast hip-hop. A lot of that driving, boom bap, kind of, kick drum, snare driven beats. It's really, really good. You definitely should check it out. Best ones you should check out are Headstone, Facts featuring Jadakiss. It's really, really good. And Crown featuring Portugal the Man, which I thought was really interesting. Cool. It was a surprise feature for me, and they actually delivered. They were really good. Related artists, Vince Staples, Denzel Curry, and The Underachievers. So now, without further ado, let's get into the album of the week. Best part of the week. Best part of my week, anyway. And Billy, I want to hear from you first about your garbage ass pick. Let's go.
Wow.
Just kidding. It was
Did you like this?
No,
it's a really good album.
I did like it.
So my album of the week, Kississippi, Sunset Blush. Just a shockingly, surprisingly great album. I went in, I was expecting to like it, to enjoy it. But man, I don't know if it caught me in the right mood, but I got hooked on this album so quick. Every track is just quality. Her voice is just fantastic on each track. There's a lot of diversity in the track list.
Yes.
Her voice, her skill level in complementing that diversity to me is incredible. Just solid, like kind of like indie, hip, dreamy pop.
Call me out if this is stupid, but I was thinking a lot about this album today.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
Is she the Adele of the indie emo girl-driven rock music? This album feels like an emo indie Adele album. It's okay if I'm wrong. That's what I was thinking today.
Yeah, but it's kind of like,
that's not...
if you just remove a vocalist from the style they're in, you understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't just...
No, because like if you were to say that about Camp Cope, I would disagree. Like I think I would. I
Still
think.
hating.
Oh, so this is about you hurting Billy's feelings?
No. Same thing for Julian Baker. We both don't like Julian Baker.
Exactly.
Remove her from the band and have her sing by herself. I think it's colossally boring. I think Kississippi being, I think she's a powerful vocalist.
Yes.
And I think throughout the album, the album is tailored to her vocals, much like an Adele album is tailored to her vocals.
Okay.
Like the instrumentals.
Yes, the vocalist is the focal point of this.
Shut up. The instrumentals are, in more than any other album that I've heard in a while, are so secondary to her voice.
Yeah.
The entire album is produced around her
I will
voice.
say that
Absolutely.
even in the mix.
Yes.
Like, I
So
thought I was imagining it.
That may
so,
be too general, but...
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No,
but
that's a good point in the production. Is it's not lo-fi, but the mix is very interesting because the vocals do stand out. The instrumentation is definitely secondary to what she has to offer.
Yeah, but even the volume on the vocal track, it is front and center.
Yes.
I made it a point to listen to headphones, and it's she's so much louder than the band.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's just hook after hook, catch after catch. Just did everything for me. I love this album so far. My favorite album of the year.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Damn.
This album really did it for me.
I think I need to listen to it more. I'm glad that we're talking about this because I hadn't considered that, even though I just made that point about the instrumentation being secondary, one of my complaints was that the mix was so off and the instrumentation wasn't good. Sorry. The instrumentation is fine. I think it suits the music and what she's going for. I wish it was more interesting, but now that you guys have brought up those points, I think it would be a disservice to Kississippi herself if the instrumentation was more interesting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's, just song to song, I think it's one of those, it doesn't get that samey, which is what I like about it. It's got a cohesive sound, but it really, each track stands out and stands on its own to the point where I listen to it, I'm like, any of these tracks like could consistently be a single.
Yeah.
Like you listen to a Taylor Swift album, it's like single. Like this, like each track has its own like stamp that's just like could play on its own.
Right.
I did appreciate how different that was track to track.
Yeah.
Even in the vocals, like some cases you can tell it sounds like she's recorded in a nice acoustically resonant space, just really natural reverb. Other tracks, it's clearly like a digital echo effect.
Right.
It's a lot less subtle, but every track has a little bit of a different flavor, but it's always her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you need something to listen to this spring with the windows down, like just kind of like
great.
feel good music, like this is the album to listen to. My favorite tracks were Cut Your Teeth, Once Good, Easier to Love, and Shamer. And if you like Snail Mail, Hazel English, right?
Snail Mail's the best.
I think, if you like Hazel English, Snail Mail, like it's a very similar sound.
Cool. I like it.
Sweet.
Solid choice. I am to go next, and my pick is Bark Your Head Off Dog by Hopalong. And I was conflicted going into this week because I wasn't sure which album I was going to pick, per usual, until I had looked at my play counts for the albums that I was considering, and Hopalong was in the teens to 20s, and everything else was like single digits. And I knew immediately that Hopalong was my choice. This album is amazing. It's so good. It's another step of evolution for this band. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with Hopalong, but their last album, Painted Shut, was also excellent. Way more guitar driven, a little more aggressive in your face. This is dialing it down a little bit. There's a lot of strings on this thing. There's a couple acoustic tracks. There's a couple acoustic tracks that kind of build into more electric, kind of explosive tracks. The instrumentation is great. There's a lot of great lead guitar all over this thing. A lot of lead guitar that reminds me of The Strokes and the latest Paramore record, After Laughter. It's got a lot of like chirping, like staccato lead lines that are awesome and kind of singing along to. And it had me fighting a lot because I wanted to kind of sing the guitar lines, but the singer Frances Quinlan's choruses and a lot of her bridges and verses are just so catchy. Like How Simple, Somewhere Judged, Fox in Motion, One That Suits Me, all have good refrains that are just super, like, she drives them home really well without getting them too repetitive, but the melody is just so infectious. The production it complements the band really well. I think it leans a little more lo-fi, but it's not unproduced. It's produced very well.
Yeah, it's pretty raw, but it still sounds good.
How would you characterize Hopalong's sound in terms of like a genre?
It's hard. I hate to call everything emo that has feelings because I don't think they're necessarily emo. I think as nebulous as it is, like alternative, like indie rock kind of, it's got strong female vocals with like a very good guitar presence that isn't made for the radio. If that would be what I boil it down to. And the vocals are not going to be for everyone. I don't know. I know Billy, you said you checked out a couple tracks.
And that's my thing is I've never been 100% sold on Hopalong, partially because the vocals and instrumentals, but I also can't say a bad thing about it.
Sure.
It's not that I don't think it's good music, because I do think they're super good. It doesn't always resonate with me.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not going to say anything bad about it because it's very good.
Yeah. Yeah. The vocals are, have that very, and that's why I'm so impressed with this album, is because in toning down her vocals, she really can have an amazing voice. But when she gets aggressive and louder and more raw, it becomes this like really loose 90s pop grunge feel. Like, say, like the Cranberries, like can be very much a turnoff for someone if you're not used to it or if you're not expecting it. But please don't let that stop you from listening to this album. It's so good. Like I said, there's a lot of lower key songs on here. Not everything is super upbeat. It's a really good, the album has a lot of good dynamics to it. Favorite tracks are How Simple, Somewhere Judged, and The Fox in Motion. Related artists, Waxahachie, Crying, and Diet Sick.
I'll give you it.
It was a good,
I'll give you it, yeah.
Good kind of slop rock kind of recommendation.
For sure.
All right, Mr. Paul, let's talk about the most inoffensive album to us this week.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone had a bad thing to say about it.
You're not helping my case about not being elevator music. So I went with Geography by Tom Misch, who, if you're not familiar, kind of like a R&B styled singer from the UK. His tracks always have a ton of really great jazz guitar, like jazz chord voicings. There's always a little bit of element of R&B. Sometimes he's a little bit disco-y, but it's just really good. Really good acoustic sounds, really good production. His songwriting style to me is very pleasing, very
Super
solid.
pleasing.
He even gets away with things I don't normally like out of musicians who are anywhere close to the jazz genre.
What do you mean?
Like, he does a minute and 30 of Isn't She Lovely on here.
Oh, yeah.
And normally that just make my eyes roll back in my head. It's like a gigging standard for anyone who's just started jazz guitar. But
I think it fits well in the track list, too.
It's so good, though. The tone and everything. Yep. I am a little bit hurt that you put John Mayer guitar all over this bitch, is what the notes you wrote said.
Because
Jordan.
I say that because his tone and the way he approaches lead guitar sounds very, very similar to John Mayer to me.
I agree. It's also a clean guitar. So, you're entitled to your opinion.
Fine. It's whatever, man. It's whatever.
No, it's just a pretty... But you could also say it's Julian Baker guitar because it's a pretty clean guitar.
Oh, because it's boring, Billy? Is that what you're getting at? You don't have to talk shit about Paul's album while he's in front of you.
Hey, I told Paul, you cannot go wrong with Tom Misch.
That's true. That's very true.
This is a great album. Tom Misch is a great songwriter, singer.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's something I wouldn't expect to be into, but it has all the right elements of house and disco and R&B and live instrumentation, and it's just I believe he came by Black Cat a few weeks ago, a month ago. My roommate and I were going to go. I didn't think anybody listened to Tom Misch. I didn't realize he was as big as he is. He sold that show out pretty quickly.
Oh, shit.
And resale was insane, so we didn't get to make it.
I would love to go see him.
But dude, I was pretty devastated because he would be incredible live. He's one of those people would put on a great show.
Yeah, I don't want to do a disservice to the music because I don't want it to seem like he's just a really basic jazz musician because there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
But it's very much a starter kit. Like if you're someone who isn't as into jazz or R&B or any of that style, it would be a good way for you to introduce yourself because you can just appreciate his songwriting and the sound.
Yeah. It's got a lot of good, I actually heard about Tom Misch a couple weeks ago because at a show I was at, they played him over the loudspeakers. And I looked it up, and it was like this cool lo-fi hip-hop track. So I was like, oh, sweet, this dude's all about this. And listening to the album, it was not like that at all. Right. But it's really good. But it's got hip-hop all over it. So it's got that element to it if you're not super into hip-hop that could,
To me, it's more like a modern-day George Benson, which Benson is nowhere near as interesting.
Okay.
Not by today's standards, but in that it's someone who people will go to see him sing.
Sure.
But still nasty on guitar.
Right.
And I liked everything on it. There were some really interesting features.
The Gold Link feature was really nice. I liked the De La Soul feature a lot. That was really, really good.
I mean, it wasn't going to set the world on fire with that verse, but it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. And then a up-and-coming jazz hip-hop rapper, Loyal Carner, also has a feature on here that I think is... I mean, it's in his wheelhouse. It's just kind of him by the numbers, but it's nice. It's a good feature.
Great pick, because I think he's very up and coming. Yeah. He's going to blow up.
Yes, absolutely. Favorite tracks? What are you giving me that look?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you about those tracks.
Okay. I'm kidding. I was like, what's going on?
There's something crazy behind you. Okay. So I really like TikTok, It Runs Through Me, and Lost in Paris. If nothing else, listen to those three.
Yeah. Absolutely. I added, as related artist, Jamie Isaac, who is a jazzy kind of one-man piano show. Kaytranada or Kaytranada.
Yeah, Kaytranada's very
it's got similar funky production.
Yeah, for sure.
Taku is a kind of lo-fi hip-hop producer that does some similar stuff.
Did you have the authority to add those?
No, I just added them because fuck you, that's why.
Whoa.
How'd you feel about them apples?
Well, if you didn't sign my checks, I'd have a lot to say about that.
What checks? You're getting checks? Is my wife signing my checks for me? That's weird.
Your wife's kids are.
Yeah, my wife's kids. Yeah, she takes my checkbook to school and they just sign whatever the fuck they want. That's why my bank account is so low. It makes a lot of sense. If you're curious about the singles and albums we talked about today, there will be a playlist up on the website. That would be at bliss.house, bliss.haus, containing all the singles and the best tracks from this week's albums. Be sure to check us out on Spotify. All the playlists go up there. Just search for Bliss Point. We just posted a cherry on top playlist, which is everything that we did not talk about last month that was excellent. And I just added a new post, or a new leg to that playlist, because Billy's a slacker and he didn't give it to me soon enough. So
look, you can't find everything in the same month, all right?
That's true. That's fair enough. So I added a new one, Mr. Aladdin, or not Mr. It's a group of them. Aladdin Fox.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I liked it. Cool. So be sure to check that out. Thanks everybody for listening. Like, share, subscribe, smash that like button. Check us out on iTunes and leave a review, but only good reviews. Podcast is on Google Play now, and it's on Spotify.
Nice.
If you're the 5 people that listen to the podcast on Spotify. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at BlissPointPod. Check us out on YouTube. Search for Bliss Point Podcast. Check us out on Stitcher or your favorite podcast app. And just a friendly reminder, visit bliss.house for more content. Thanks, guys.
If we're on Spotify, does that mean we're also on Hulu?
Now, yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that. Bye.